So, what's it like living next to an international border? Well, this is commonplace. I'm coming back from church, and I was coming down this hill back there, and I saw this entire expressway backed up to pretty much standstill traffic for at least 2 miles. And this is because it's Sunday, and on Sunday, all the families that live in Mexico, and some of them live in America. People will come down to Mexico just for the weekend to be with their family, and then everyone heads back on Sunday for the work week starting tomorrow. And so anyone in this part of town knows that Sunday is the worst day to try and cross the border because this is an expressway that I'm on right now. But the borderline is so backed up that it's backed up, like, this is pretty much overflow. It's backed up to the expressway and down the expressway. So anyone that's trying to get anywhere that doesn't even relate to the border has to wait in this. And like I said in the last video, I have Sentry, so I'm trying to get to the Sentry line because I am crossing today. And this is what we're waiting in. But in other news, I wanted to show what it looked like, the physical, actual fence of the border, which when I first drove down this highway, I thought it was really crazy to see this. So this median right here is the median between the eastbound and westbound lane, and that's the westbound lane right there. That fence right there, this first short fence that you see, which is very deceiving because the fence is actually probably 12 feet high, but there's a huge drop right off that side of the road, so it looks like the fence is really short, but it's not. If I stood in front of it, I couldn't reach the top of it. And then there's about probably 50 or 60 feet, and then the other fence back there that are all the poles, that's the American fence. So this first fence is the Mexican fence to the border. The other fence back there is the American fence to the border. And that's it. That's the border right there. So when you drive down this highway, you are following the border the entire way. And it's really an interesting view to be on this side of the border and look over and think that that's my that's my home, that's my country. But there's people that will live here. I mean, there's neighborhoods and houses over here, and there's people that will live here and their entire lives they'll look over to this side, and maybe sometimes they'll never get to go over there. So very interesting. And from what I've been told, it's not terribly difficult to get under or around or maybe even over that fence. There are border guards and patrol vehicles that you'll see consistently. Oh, actually, there's one right now. There's a Customs and Border Patrol SUV, and I've never been out here and not seen helicopters around as well. And even though Mexico builds right up to the border, as you can see, there's buildings and houses and stuff on this side. On the American side of the border, there isn't anything for miles. It's a huge park, actually, a huge state park. And they do that intentionally so that anyone who does manage to get under or around the fence or over the fence, they don't really have anywhere to go. And so the helicopters will spot them, or the Border Patrol will spot them. Also, in the news just recently, on another part of the city, there's a whole bunch of factories that are on the Mexican side, and there's factories that are on the American side. And someone who owned a factory on the Mexican side also owned a factory on the American side, directly across from each other on both sides of the border. And he had a tunnel going from the Mexican factory to the American factory. And Customs and Border Patrol just found that a couple of weeks ago, I guess, and it was on the news. So yeah, there's definitely ways to get over and around this thing that would make it easier than you would think. So anyway, that's what it's like to cross. That's what it's like living here. And sweetheart, it's okay. And yeah, here's another picture of life in Mexico. Hopefully this line won't be too long today.